Righty. This whole xenophobia in South Africa it's bad. It's bad. And with the farm murders and all that, it's bad. And it's amazing. You actually look at these thousands of people and they want blood. That's it. They want blood. And then Ramaphosa will say, we are a sovereign nation. I don't know about a sovereign nation. I know about a savage nation that hasn't caught up to the first world countries, gone so far back that you not even a third world country. Yeah. I actually came across this guy a couple of months ago. I'm not sure where he's from. So let us see what he's got to say. Yeah, the Zulu people that really came from Nigeria. Yeah, let's start.
You are angry with Mr. Jew saying, look, we're creating an enclave for our people. You couldn't even allow those who look like you to remain in your country. But you are asking that you should be allowed to go to Orania. While when the whites were in place, they created economic opportunities, schools and roads and railway lines and
amazing, hey?
You name it.
Amazing.
And that country became an attractive country to all of us. What really is apartheid? It was a social and a cultural order. We want separate social amenities. It's happening here in America called the segregation. Actually, that was the biggest opportunity for South Africa to have come together as one country, one molded tribe, and develop your own economic foundations and systems.
Even up until today, in the US, there are certain areas that are mainly white. There are certain areas that are mainly black. Oh, yeah.
You couldn't. You were not begging for factories to be given to you. You were not begging for land to build your own factories. You were fighting against, no, we want to mix with you.
Yeah.
But what is there that is so common between the white men from...
Guys, so Frank Zano is back. And this video is a little bit sobering, but it's still along the lines of what I've been speaking a lot about South Africa, right? You see the current, what many people now have termed xenophobic attacks against other African nationals going on right now in South Africa, hosted by the March and March group and other groups actually that have actually been clamoring for the exit of illegal immigrants from South Africa, right? And this current March and March group is actually led by, her name is Jacinta Ngobuesi, and
tries to make a name for himself,
Nkulu, right? So these two guys now are actually now at the forefront of marching around towns and cities and provinces in South Africa, trying to indicate to illegal foreigners that it's time to go. So that's where South Africa is at the moment, all right? And remember, I usually say on this channel that if you think about South Africa, remember that South Africa is made up of whites, blacks, Indians, and coloreds. All right. So it's not just the blacks. So what we are seeing dominating our screens, even to the BBC, has actually been permeated as though it's South Africans actually who are trying to chase away African nationals out of South Africa. But it's focused on the black South Africans. And that's where Frank Zanu is zoning in here, arguing, right? I think in this video, I'll be placing the source video, but I'll be making several videos on it because he hit some really interesting nails on the head, arguing that, he was wrong about apartheid, all right? Apartheid in his view meant separateness, all right, being apart. And he argues that the same goes on in the United States, what is called segregation. I don't really know how that's actually been taken by many black Americans in the United States, but Zanu thinks that, it could have been an opportunity for South Africa to have developed based on its own indigenous economic model, as it were, because in South Africa during apartheid there were homelands. I think there were about 9 of them, all right, and these homelands actually had different groups of people. I think the Zulus, the Vendors, and all that. They were actually allowed to develop their own kinds of models of development and grow, while the central economy was controlled by the Afrikaners, who took power from the British in 1948 following the formation of the
and let's just get one thing clear right now. The National Party was prepared to help with the homelands. Yeah. They want to just come and take everything.
Union of South Africa in 1910, all right? So Zanu now is actually arguing, right, that, during apartheid, right now we are seeing black South Africans trying to chase other African nationals out because they argue that these African nationals are taking their jobs, all right? Zanu is of the opinion that, who created these jobs?
There are no jobs to take. I mean, that you can't fix stupid. And these useful cogs that are following these 2 men, that no friggin' intelligence.
Most of these guys come into South Africa, to sell, really low quality or probably, items that actually might not add initially to the economic, GDP of South Africa. But these blacks zoning into the fact that they are actually still.
They sell, what do they sell? To kids in the squatter camps that are growing hourly. They sell little sweeties or something that happen to be actually poisonous, and nothing happens. And as for helping the country's GDP, what a joke. All you have to do is go have a look to where these people are from and see very low GDP.
In their jobs might not actually be a complete analysis. He argues that during apartheid, right, the whites in South Africa actually gave jobs to the blacks, and it actually takes me to a critique that the former president during the apartheid era, Vorster, because I had to start really going back to listen to these presidents who we all blamed for apartheid, all right, but I took my time to try to go and listen to their reasoning because they had lived in Africa and understood certain things about Africa. This was what Vorster had to say about the blacks entering South Africa. So he argued that, if the other African countries, and this was as far back as in the 1970s, I think, he argues that if the other countries are not able to provide employment for their people, the only provision they would always provide would be labor, all right? And it appears, it almost appears as though African countries, African governments haven't gotten, that the part of that economic development right, all right? So while the whites during apartheid were able to create avenues to employ this labor that was flocking into South Africa, Zanu even argues that he had a friend He was alive. He had a friend who moved to South Africa, I think from Ghana in 1984 during apartheid. So there were blacks already moving into South Africa before apartheid, all right? So and most of those blacks now have created generations, other black generations and all that. So to come now and argue that you want foreigners out, people who do not look like you are South Africans or people who are not originally South Africans, it's problematic. That's where Zanu is coming from. And he actually argues that, South Africans have been lied to by their politicians. They have to hold the ANC accountable, all right? Because at the end of the day, when you think about apartheid, what it was really, in my thinking, especially being ethnically Igbo, during the Biafran struggle in 1967. In 1967, there was a civil war in Nigeria where the Igbos wanted to leave the nation state called Nigeria today to set up their own, federation, which was supposed to be called the Federal Republic of Biafra. Now, they had already designed, economic systems. They had actually started designing technologies and all that. They actually wanted to be separate, all right? But Zanu argues that the South Africans in this instance actually weren't fighting to develop their own spaces, but they were fighting to be mixed with the whites, which he thinks is really, in a way, absurd, according to him. And as a result of that, it degenerated into everything we know about, from the sanctions, from the divestment movement in the United States college campuses, all the way to the sanctions in the EU, and then eventual collapse of the apartheid system by 1994. So Zanu has a really fierce message to these black Africans. And I think the crux of the message he's actually arguing is that he's arguing that black South Africans are usually angry with Orania. They usually get angry with Orania, that the fact that the Oranians want to build their own enclave.
Okay, let us talk about this. Those people bought that land. They can build, do whatever they want. It's their land. They paid for it. That's like me going into somebody's house and just saying to them, it's now my house, and leave. Well, that's going to happen in South Africa as well. It's just a matter of time.
Which actually is, in a bid to preserve their own culture, and they've been able to generate their own electricity, their own export. They even export to like China in, some quantity at the moment and all that. But the black South Africans are really angry, but yet they're not able to endure to see other African nationals coming to.
Which just goes to actually show they can't, they can't build their own. They have to always steal through laws changing or whatever. And when are people going to wake up? ANC's been ruling for 32 years. And nothing.
South Africa to find or make a living or something like that. Really controversial take he has. But let's quickly listen to Zanu break down this issue on why it is that he thinks is absurd. That during apartheid, which was called a racist system, the whites were actually able to create opportunities for many blacks who are flocking from Ghana, Togo, all the way to South Africa. Not only the mines now, because the Ghanaians and the Togolese and the Nigerians weren't really going to the mines, all right? But now today we see black South Africans kicking these same African Americans out, African nationals out, claiming that they are stealing the jobs they did not create and the jobs that they might not be skilled enough to even have. All right, let's quickly listen and share your thoughts in the comments.
I thought the world would stop and say, whoa, we never thought this is ever possible. For black people in a black country to chase down fellow Africans from that continent and kill them in the streets, not over war, simply because you're selling some used clothes on the streets, something that happened all over the world. When I was living in Japan, you would see Israelis youth, they come through, Israelis, and they sell these called Dead Sea, salt on the streets of Tokyo. and necklaces, handmade necklaces and rings and stuff like that. Japanese never chase them and blame it on the economy.
Oh, gosh.
What you have done, whoa, the picture is ugly. It cannot be erased because of the internet. But I pray, I don't know what your great-grandchildren would say when they see what you have done.
They'll follow
Not
their
to white people or
footsteps
Arab or Chinese,
and
to your
blame the
own
white
kind.
people.
Now, let me tell you something. I'm not
And blame
defending the
other
Ghanaians or the
black
Nigerians
countries.
or anyone. But what I saw is beyond words. The very country that continent, citizens of those countries have supported over the years, gave you room to run away. Hugh Masekela, God bless his soul, the best of the best, was living in Nigeria and then later on in Osu, Accra, Ghana, for years. We opened our doors for him. Fela Anikulapo Kuti hosted Hugh Masekela, jammed with him for years. He found it to be a home. Then he moved and played with the Hejole Sounds back in the 70s and 80s in Ghana. Ghana was like a home to Hugh Masekela from South Africa, followed by Mira Makeba, and many more. You've lied to yourself, your politicians have lied to you. Now it's tough for you to say, let's face our own people. How in God's name would you explain this? You cried and went to jail that white people are torturing your own people and making your own people broke, which is not true. They gave the country to you. Jacob Zuma became president and stole money stole enough that his own people, black government, threw him in jail. And you know what happened when they threw him in jail as a matter of accountability? All hell broke loose in South Africa.
And funnily enough, history, the blacks will still idolize Zuma, Ramaphosa, Juju. They will still idolize them, thinking these guys are our heroes. Of what? Mountains of bones? Because of famine? Because of stupidity? Incompetence? Yeah.
Zulus said no, they would never see their fellow man from Zululand thrown in jail. So they went on a riot, burning and looting.
Destroy.
Clear sign. The African can never unite. Because you know why? The parliament full of Xhosas and other people were the ones who jailed Zuma, not Zulu people. Was that not enough for you to say, wow, you came to power. You say you care about us. And you stole the very money that would have fed us. While when the whites were in place, they created economic opportunities, schools and roads and railway lines and you name it. And that country became an attractive country to all of us. You should have sat down and thought about it. What really is apartheid? It was a social and a cultural order. We don't want interracial marriage. We want separate social amenities. It's happening here in America called segregation. Yeah, many countries don't want it.
Yeah.
You know what? Actually, that was the biggest opportunity for South Africa to have come together as one country, one molded tribe, and develop your own economic foundations and systems. You couldn't. You were not begging for factories to be given to you. You were not begging for land to build your own factories. You were fighting against, no, we want to mix with you. But what is there that is so common between the white man from the Dutch land and you that you want to mix? In fact, it's not even natural in the first place.
No, it's not. It's
The
unnatural.
settlers knew their culture and knew yours. Oh, recently when I interviewed Mr. Just from the Orania, many are saying, oh, wow, we've come to understand it properly now. But in the first place, I was saying, why wouldn't we come there? Well, you are angry with Mr. Just saying, look, we're creating an enclave for our people. You couldn't even allow those who look like you to remain in your country. But you are asking that you should be allowed to go to Orania, where the people are so distinctively different from you, culturally, socially, politically, historically, everything. Does it make sense? So I call on the youth of South Africa. You can be forgiving what has happened. You can be forgiving. Ghanaians are very forgiving people. I know that. Even Nigerians, as rough as they are, they can be very forgiving too. This is an opportunity for all of you to sit and say, we did something wrong. And hold your politicians accountable because they have lied to you.
That's the thing. They won't. They will not hold them accountable. Like, this is such a mess. And every year when it's voting time, Juju with his little lickspits get together and complain that they haven't got anything, and they go and complain to, I'm telling you, Afrikaners. How can they be separate? It's not fair. It should actually wake you up to actually realize that, I'm telling you, Afrikaners can, do well without black people. But the black people cannot do well without the white people.
They have lied.
Yeah, terribly.
It wasn't colonization. It wasn't apartheid. It wasn't Nigerians and Ghanaians and whatever, Zimbabweans. No. Your economic status, your social status is no different from that of Uganda. Uganda also blame Indians. Zimbabwe also blame British. You see, Don't you see the pattern? So why would yours be different? Nigeria has oil, but they're flopping into your country. Why are their economic status not different? There was no apartheid in Nigeria. There was no apartheid in Ghana. There is no apartheid in Uganda, in Zimbabwe, in Kenya. But they are flopping into your country because they share the same economic status. As long...
Yeah. It's time to hold the leaders in South Africa accountable. They have caused untold misery. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for watching. See you on the next one. Bye.